So the Communicating Flood Risk project is a traditional iCASP project, and it came about when risk management authorities from across Yorkshire came to iCASP and said, we know that we do lots of work trying to be the best that we can be communicating flood risk to those who are vulnerable and are at flood risk, but we face certain challenges, and could the iCASP programme possibly help us to overcome those challenges, matching up academic research and knowledge from the universities with the expertise in the field.
What we felt was that, guidance and things like that, they go and sit on the shelf. So you can produce them, but they don't necessarily help. There's a lot of academic articles already that if practitioners wanted to go and read them, they could do, but they don't have time. And actually something which is more visceral, more experiential would have more impact. And this whole idea of role-play games, or games in which people think about particular scenarios and play them out, is a good way to think about different roles and experiences, think about what you would do, what you could do in particular circumstances, and provides a way for people to think about the incident as a whole in a situation which is not as fraught and costly as a real situation.
Today we had a session with West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. So basically in our exercise, what we try to do is focus on the communication gaps which might take place before and during an incident. How our exercise is planned, it can be divided into 3 tasks. So we focus on the means of communication, the message that you want to put out there, and maybe who would be the responsible agency when you want to reach out to during an incident.
I guess it's mainly aimed at a mix of the flood risk management agencies, the engaged members of the public, and also we're working with the Fire and Rescue Service here today, and they're a really important stakeholder as well. So it's a mix of those different stakeholders, and then a key aim is to get some of those people working together. So I think that'll be where the real strong benefit is building understanding and talking together, and then identifying actions that everyone can take to improve.
We take the calls, so we often are the first people to speak to members of the public, so they'll quite often ring us before anybody else. So any opportunities that we can have to improve the service we give, to make sure that we're doing the right thing, obviously it's a good idea for us to do that. And as training manager, I like to make sure that we're doing the very best that we can, so that I can take any ideas back to control.
I noticed the iCASP group offering training on social media, so we got in contact. I think we learned a lot about communication and communication about groups. There were some interesting aspects that that I hadn't considered before about some of the groups that we might have to communicate with during floods. It's got me thinking about ways that we might approach that.
We are wanting people from flood groups, community action groups, anybody involved in flood risk communications, and that includes people in risk management authorities such as flood risk managers, councils, emergency services, the media. It's really easy to sign up, you just need to send the email and we'll get back to you.
So we're currently compiling a quite big data set of evaluations for each of the workshops that have been taking part, and then we'll compile these all together and analyse them in order to understand whether there are patterns of how the workshop could be improved, or whether it's working particularly well for some groups and not others. Basically all the kind of feedback that might be useful in terms of how this workshop might be used in different places or ways in the future.
So the next steps for the project, there are 2 other kind of modules and exercises that we have in draft that we could develop. So we're aware that there are challenges around communicating flood risk, both when thinking about flood scheme development and also when thinking about long-term resilience, so thinking about factors such as climate change and how that will impact flood risk. So that would require extra funding. So we're looking at different ways to fund the project going forward, because we've had really great reception and there is a lot of potential to work in this space still. And also the insights that we have had from this project will be obviously written up and recommendations made as to how flood risk communications can continuously improve.